All right. So to get started, we have a few new announcements or cool things to share. So I'll start by sharing my screen. First off, what's fantastic is we finally have App Store approval from both Apple and Google for MindLab 2. So this is still a beta, but we're finally able to test this and share it with people and really take it to the next levels. One of the new features that we have is a native wearable app for Apple Watch and Wear OS. And we talked a little bit about the features and what was to come in the previous webinar. But now, if you're interested, we can discuss sort of beta testing, trying it out, and sort of getting feedback on that. So I just wanted to put that one out there. And then now onto the really cool stuff. The designs that I was showing off last month are finally in our staging, our beta build. So you can actually now go to this URL, which I will also post in the chat, and you can actually try this out for yourself. And over here, you'll find sort of a beta version of our website. If you log in with existing credentials, keep in mind that things may not work as expected. So I highly recommend trying it out using this try it button. And you can definitely just click on researcher or patient, whichever one you prefer. And to start off, you'll notice this page is not yet redesigned yet. But I will be talking through some of the changes on the patient-facing side. So now if we go to the patient side, as you just saw, this looks completely different. Sort of the style has changed quite a bit. You have these helpful little tips for people to understand what sections are doing for them and how to sort of navigate this. This little blue, you're logged into a demo account thing is just a friendly reminder that nothing you do here will actually be saved. Nothing you say will ever leave your computer, and so on. But I want to go through some of the cooler aspects of this. We're working to redesign tips, and I showed off this design earlier, but now you can actually sort of look at it and you can use it, and you can try this on your mobile phone as well, and it looks much better there. So the tips are finally available. We're still working on adding, different components like suggested reading. And in the assess screen, the surveys have been redesigned. So now you get this little pop-up over here, as I showed you last month. It tells you the number of questions, about how long it'll take, and about what the general gist of the survey is. So when you start the survey, you can see the updated design is very prominent. It's much easier to go through the app, much easier to understand what you're doing, and so on. One thing I will mention is actually for simpler surveys on a mobile screen, if I were to go into a mobile screen view, you actually are only going to see one question at a time. So it's very easy for patients to navigate, and it's very low cognitive overhead. It's very simple. So for example, I can just do this and hit submit. And now the next feature that we're adding is this idea of streaks, which I mentioned a little bit last time, but we're actually adding a new thing to it based on feedback. We're going to make it customizable. 14 days is just the example that we have here, but in the case that, for example, you want to modify what the streaks are and modify what should be done to earn a streak, things like that, you can actually change it. And you can also turn this feature off completely if you don't want it, just like with any feature I'm showing you. So any questions so far on just the learn and the assess pages? All right, then moving on to manage, which is where I think the most amazing things are happening right now. We're really working to build in a lot of interventions and sort of self-help utilities that people can use, but we're also bringing back lots of things that we left behind in MindLab 1. So let me start off with, again, my favorite feature is Breathe, which got a huge redesign. So starting with Breathe, you'll see that this lotus here, in the redesign, it actually animates and folds in and out. At the moment, it does not actually look like a lotus, but it's working pretty close right now in our betas. So we're going to bring that in here, and you can actually see, a lotus folding and unfolding as you inhale and exhale. And there's a progress bar up here that sort of lets you keep track of how much more breathing you have to do, things like that. And I'm going to let this run while I talk a little bit, because we now have a new feature at the end of the breathing. It doesn't just sort of disappear forever. It'll also prompt you whether it was useful or not. Was it something that was actually helpful? When you received this intervention, did it actually help you, or was it poorly timed? Maybe you don't want to be getting breathing reminders when you are out and having fun, or maybe you would rather get the reminders when you're actually stressed, things like that. And it'll also keep track of this data for you. Before, when you did a breathing exercise, it didn't actually save anything. It was more for you to breathe and feel better. But now we actually get sort of data on, from a wearable device, what is your heart rate? What is your shakiness, basically? Are you actually staying still? Are you actually breathing? And are you actually lowering your heart rate in the process? And we can also get data on how long you spend doing these, how many times a day are you doing the breathing exercises, and so on. So we're trying to add in new types of data that you can collect from interventions to understand how to help patients be better about their health. And so those are just some of the small features that we're adding to a lot of the interventions. Almost every intervention also collects data now. But are there any questions on this process so far, or on how the interventions in LAMP are going to be working? Cool. And I'll also be taking comments from, or comments and questions from the chat, which I need to keep open. So if anyone wants to just write something out there, that would be great as well. But as we approach the end of the timer, I can finally show you what that final end screen looks like. And a lot of this is customizable. Again, if you don't want the breathing exercises to be available to patients in your clinic or participants in your research study, you can turn it off. And so once this Lotus folds back in, this sort of appears. It's supposed to slide in from the bottom and be nice and aesthetically pleasing. We're working on that aspect. But what's important is it allows me to sort of say, was this helpful today? Yes or no? And I think it was helpful. I think it's helpful all the time. So I'm just going to do that. And when I hit done, it also will take me back out to the main screen, which is, again, this is a beta. I apologize for any bugs you're seeing. But now we come back out to this section over here. One of the things that we are working on, for example, we have a rudimentary journal system. You can see over here the way that you can keep a catalog of everything sort of going on. You can add a new journal entry and so on. This is all non-functional at the moment. It's just in user interface testing to see how adequately we can make this work. But if there's interest and if people want to know more about it, I would love to field some questions. And the Hope box as well has gotten a makeover, and now you can sort of add quotes and images, although all of this is still sort of a user interface thing. There's no actual data being saved anywhere. Now, we've brought from MindLamp 1 another of my favorite activities, and something our patients also love, the scratch card activity. And actually, it's not supposed to reveal the full image just yet. Let me figure out, there you go. So you see this metallic sheen on top, and you're supposed to drag around and reveal the image underneath. And when you hit a critical threshold, it'll show the full image. And what's really interesting is we'll also get patterns of how are you dragging this? Are you dragging a little bit and then taking a long time and then dragging again? Are you just doing these quickly? Do you often upload your own image? And no, we don't actually get the image that you upload to do the scratch card with. We just know if you're using a custom image or are you using something that we gave you. Things like that. We're not actually receiving any personal information in the process. So that's one thing that we can actually do now. So it's an improvement over what we've had in MindLamp 1. Another thing that we haven't yet redesigned is the medication tracker. So there's not much to show there just yet. But now we have cool things that we had in MindLamp 1 and ported over, but also 2 new activities that we're going to finally show. For example, the Jewels game, which is you can tell that the user interface is still being worked on, but it's finally here. It supports all of the customization, all of the different parameters. It supports Jewels Trails A and Trails B mode. So if you're used to those neurocognitive tests from MindLamp 1, you're going to be right at home with this. The data that we've collected is going to be the exact same from MindLamp 1 and from MindLamp 2. And you'll see it gets timed. It tracks everything you tap. For example, how close to the actual jewel did you tap? Were you fudge fingering it, or were you actually tapping the wrong jewel, for example? So there's now more information that you can collect. And we're also bringing the cats and dogs test, the cognitive test rather. And we're also bringing, let's see, the other one is dot touch, which we're working on the user interface again, but 1, 2, 3, you can see those were incorrect. A, then 2, then B, then 3. I'm failing this exam right now, but regardless, we're gonna go back out. Now, the 2 new ones that I'm really glad to showcase are number 1, Pop the Bubbles, which is kind of a novel one that one of our collaborators here at here at Beth Israel and Cambridge Health Alliance is actually designed this for us. And so, for example, this is a risk-taking sort of thing, or sort of, let me just play it. I don't remember actually what happens yet, but here we go. So now my job is to tap on the bubbles that I was shown, but not on the other ones. So I have to think fast, but not too fast to pop the wrong bubbles. And this is very hard settings right now. So you're not expected to play it at these settings. You can actually customize how many bubbles, how many colors, how many bubbles are you supposed to keep track of, things like that. And you can tell that it's not scored yet, but tap to continue and we can keep going. So don't pop 2 bubbles of the same color in a row, only pop yellow and blue bubbles. So now we're getting cues that are different, and you have to sort of balance these different constraints in your mind. And of course, as with the Jewels game, we do get every single tap. Where did you tap? How far off were you? How long did you take? What's your response time? Things like that. And I'm not good at this, so I'm just gonna back out now. But the other one is Balloon Risk. And Balloon Risk is a risk-taking game, which I actually really appreciate because it's really fun to play, in my opinion. Now, the goal is you have to pump up the balloon, but not too much, such that you pop it. And I'm just gonna keep pumping it up. Oh, the balloon bursted. Lacking in animation, but maybe next time I should stop before 35 pumps. So now I'm gonna keep pumping it up, and let's stop. And I'm gonna collect my points. Boom, now I've made 14 points and I can keep going. So this is a risk-taking behavior sort of cognitive test. And again, this one was designed by our collaborator that also designed the Pop the Bubbles test. So thank you very much. These are really fun games. We're working a little bit to integrate them better and get more types of data out of it, but they'll be live very soon. I would say by the end of the month, we're expecting to have a better version of this that you guys can also try out. And of course, there's also the beta that you can try out today at the dashboard beta that I linked you all to. Finally, we're getting a new interface entirely for the prevent section. Now you can sort of neatly select what you want to see and what you don't want to see, and you don't have to see the selector on the screen at all times. So when you do this, it will save your configuration like this for the next time you show up. And we're also adding new different tiles, ways that you can look at things, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. But now, for example, I can actually preview the information. You can see the tooltip is helping me out. So crowd 27, 21 for this one. We're working on the bugs, but what's cool is I can also open this up and I can do the same things as I was always able to do with these charts. So now we're also trying to analyze to some degree what's going on here. This statement over here, fluctuating, it's going to simply understand, is the chart changing frequently? Is the trend upward? Is the trend downward? What's going on? And then try and put it into a single succinct sentence. So when you look at it as a clinician or as a patient, you can understand, is this something of concern or are things stable? And that's what we're trying to do now with all of these charts as well. And of course, you can sort of open them up, you can change the data, things like that. And nothing has really changed there yet. Any questions so far on the prevent screen? What's also awesome is we're adding, for the first time, the feed view. And this is a complete demo, so nothing you're seeing here is real patient data at all, or actual data to begin with. But for the day, when you log in on your phone, you will actually get notifications for these, and you can also see what it is that my day involves me doing. For example, I'll be able to see the tip. Then I'll be able to take a medication and then do a journal entry and then anxiety survey. And then at the very end of the day, review today's stats. So it sort of guides me through the day. And if I swipe a notification away, I can come back here and see if I've actually done that activity or not. So it's not lost forever. And I can also, in the future, go back in time and actually see what did I do on July 8th, for example. When did I last take my medications? What are all the journal entries I want to keep an eye out for? Things like that. So any questions so far on the beta that's live? Because I have a lot of cool redesign things to share with you as well. No questions? All questions are appreciated. And again, just to recap, you can always go to dashboard-staging.lamp.digital, this URL, to play with this yourself and explore. And what I'm going to do now is show you where the redesign is going, along with, let me pull this up real quick. Let me switch that shared screen. There we go. There we go. All right. So I'm going to show the changes that we're making so far. A lot of these things, let me hide this if I can. Nope, can't hide any of this. A lot of the things that we're changing, for example, the survey experience, the survey experience is now much more improved for mobile. Oh, where did everyone go? There we go. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. The survey experience is much more improved for mobile, as I was showing you. But now we also offer time input and duration input, and we also offer a slider response. And that makes it way easier for patients to sort of just drag on the slider and pick an option. And the streaks, as I mentioned before, are now integrated into this. And this, the counter is actually going to also do this now, where it sort of tells you how many more breaths you have to take. And like I said, we're also collecting heart rate data and accelerometer data from the wearable devices if you have one attached. So we can tie that in together and understand if you're actually sort of calming down. Are you actively able to calm down while doing the breathing exercise? For the journal entry, we're adding this feature for how do you feel today? So you can tag the journal entry with this is a good journal entry or this is a bad journal entry. And when you say it's a good journal entry, it's something that you want to be reminded of. So you can actually go back in and be reminded of this journal entry and take a look at, say, past journal entries that make you feel better. And now for every activity in LAMP, if you leave without saving something, it will actually ask you, wait a minute, did you want to save it or did you want to leave and not save anything? But here's the redesigned version that we are hoping to finally release for the prevent screen, which I just showed you. So you'll not only be able to see these graphs, but you'll also be able to see quick overhead numbers, quick pie charts with these little icons to remind you of what it is that you were doing. So the icon and the text together. And the journal entries view is going to be relocated here now. So if you tap on the journal entries per month, you'll actually be able to see all of the ones that you positively marked or the ones you've negatively marked, for example. And you can see which days were most active and which days were not. And yeah, the list grows on. There's many, many pieces that are being redesigned right now. So the beta that you saw is not full or complete, but another feature that I'm really happy to have, because I was just looking for an app that could do this maybe a week ago, setting your own goals. For example, maybe I want to be reminded 3 times a day to exercise or drink water or something similar like that. Take a medication maybe, something similar. Now I can click new goal, select a pre-built category, or I can create my own custom goal. And then I can set the goal name, what it is that I want to be doing, what's the goal details. It's unit based. So I'd maybe say I want to drink 1 glass of water over here. And then it should remind me every single day, starting July 30th for a total of 2 months. And the reminder should start at 7:30 a.m. Kind of like an alarm, but more tuned towards goal setting behaviors and improving your health. And you can also take a look at the number of days that your goal is actually met and the days that it wasn't. And that feeds into the streaks. Now in the feed, you can also see the goal showing up here as something that you need to accomplish later in the day. Any questions so far on that? For the medication tracker, the redesign that we couldn't complete in time for this is going to look radically different. We're adding in the ability to search for medications from a list, which will help a lot of people tremendously. I think just medications have long, confusing names most of the time. And the other thing is you can set multiple dosages for different times. And the reminders are going to be the same way that we just saw to create a new goal. So reminders for dosages and sort of multiple medications, we can track this and we can also get information on, did you take the medication? Did you not take the medication? Or did you forget and then come back to take the medication later? So things like that are now possible. And the best part is this not only helps patients, but also anyone that wants to use the app for tracking anything. It's not limited to the scope of mental health. And we're really trying to build LAMP to be a platform that can be used by any kind of researcher or clinician for any purpose. And now, for example, if you look at the goals here in the prevent context, this is what that would look like. So what was the goal? When were you to be reminded? Do you want to go edit the goal? What's your current streak? And what is the history of the goal? How many of the days did you actually meet your goal? It's very visually apparent. And I can actually see that between August 30th and the 20th, there was about 10 days where I didn't meet my goal. So that maybe is something that in a clinical context I need to bring up. And now for environmental context, this is also very interesting because we're redesigning this entirely. You can set your own questions, you can set your own locations. What kind of context do you want to pick up on? And when we collect the data, we also give you the number of hours. How many hours did you spend in a certain area? Because when you tag yourself as being in the gym and your location keeps popping up as location being gym, GPS coordinates of X comma Y, we can associate the two. We can actually understand it. Oh, you were in the gym for an hour and you were shopping for 2.5 hours when you were out and about or something. You maybe were home for 8 hours, things like that. Being able to pull together different sources of information to present something informative and uniquely helpful to everyone using LAMP. And finally, last but not least, we haven't forgotten about the conversations. They're just not ready yet for prime time, so they're not in the beta. We've actually removed them temporarily from the beta, so you won't be able to receive messages from the patient context. But if you go back to the main dashboard link, you'll still be able to use it. Any questions so far on what we have for the redesign? Any feature requests, things you might want to see or do? And as I briefly go through here, just showcasing all the desktop things. Any questions so far? Cool. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. And one more piece of news and information is we have finally deprecated and removed the legacy LAMP portal. Few people were still using it. That was something that we were starting to work out of back in 2018. Most people are now using the dashboard, which is still maintained and still live and operational. But in the process, we actually finished our database migration. And so MindLamp1 data and MindLamp2 data now go to the same place. And as a downside, however, we are still squashing a lot of bugs. So if you see any bugs in MindLamp1, please send us an email, send me an email, make a consortium forum post. Let us know by any means necessary. And our developers are looking into every possible case where we can find these errors, we can fix them, and we can move faster. If you have any requests for different types of passive data sensors that you'd like to see in LAMP, if you have any questions on, what is LAMP capable of doing, or when will LAMP be released, things like that, again, please don't hesitate to make a consortium forum post, because we love interacting with the community and we want to keep you all posted, and we want to really integrate the feedback that you're giving us into making LAMP a better platform. Are there any questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So one of the things that I'm a little confused about is with LAMP 1 and LAMP 2. So there's there's like the new version of the app. So there's MindLamp 1 app on the Apple Store. There's MindLamp 2 on the App Store. Is it also the dashboard that gets updated? Like if we download and set up our own dashboard, is that is there a new dashboard file for 2 versus 1, or what is exactly the relationship between 1.0 and 2.0 and these other pieces, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So previously, to manage users using MindLamp 1, you had to use what was called the LAMP portal. And to manage users using MindLamp 2, you had to use, or you continue to use, the LAMP dashboard, which are 2 separate things.
I see.
And we've just finished deprecating and removing the portal. To manage everyone using a MindLamp app, you can use the dashboard now.
Okay.
And to go one step further, anything you can do in the dashboard, you can do in the mobile app. So if
Mhm.
you as a researcher were to download the mobile app and log in, you would actually be able to add participants, create surveys, configure notifications, all from your phone. And a patient could go on their desktop computer to fill out surveys on the dashboard. So the dashboard and the app are basically the same interface. It's just, are you going to use it in a browser or are you going to use it in the app? Now, the big difference, however, is when you use the app, you get support for passive sensor data and wearable devices, which if you were to, if as a patient, if I were to use only the web browser, I would not get those cool inferences being made by my GPS location, my accelerometer, my heart rate. It wouldn't be able to help me as much. And
Mhm.
that's the big reason why we push people to try using the apps instead, because it provides a much better experience and it really does capture the essence of digital phenotyping.
Mhm. Mhm. So if someone's using, and as I understand, like depending on your project or your clinic or whatever you're doing, some people can use their own server, their own dashboard that they've set up, but then also use the apps from the app store that y'all have put out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a very good question as well, because it's actually very modular. You can modify the apps alone. Maybe you want to add support for a blood pressure cuff. And you can
Right.
actually download the source code, modify it, and you can get Apple and Google to approve your version of the app. But you can also continue to use our dashboard and our server. Or I could also say, hypothetically, I want to create my own user experience and I don't want the dashboard. I want my own thing, but I
Mhm.
still want the passive data from the mobile app and I still want to use the server that we provide at BIDMC. So I can just modify that component. And then I can tell the apps to use the modified dashboard. And the dashboard that you have and you've uploaded, maybe your custom version can still use the same database that we have.
Mm.
So, and finally, if you don't want to modify the user experience, you don't want to modify the sensors, you just want to store your data securely in your own organization's IT system, you
Yeah.
can set up the server yourself
Right.
and you don't have to touch anything else.
And so when updates roll out, like all these really cool, exciting things that you showed off today,
Mhm.
um, and someone has their own project, if their users, their participants, or their patients, um, will they just get a update from the App Store for those changes for the app that they already have installed? Does it, or what is that experience like when these cool things roll out for participants?
Yeah, that's another very good question. You're on a roll. For example, if we update the sensor code, if we say we add a new sensor, we fix some bugs, and this is only for passive data sensors on a device or a wearable, then the users would receive an app update from the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
If we modify the user interface, they
Mm-hmm.
don't get an app update. It automatically rolls out to everyone without an app update.
Mm.
And now if you had your own custom version of the dashboard, you would have to manually copy those changes over to your version based on maybe you've changed one page and you want
Okay.
to copy the changes for all the other pages. So that's sort of on
Yeah.
you if you want to customize it.
And so it's really at the dashboard level that those cool features are controlled, and these kind of new things that roll out have to go through that dashboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And the dashboard again, so the activities that you're seeing, surveys, for example, breathing exercises, pop the bubbles, or any of the cognitive tests, those are also modified separately from the dashboard.
Mm.
So if we modify the way Jules looks, we can actually change that without changing the rest of the dashboard. And if you like the new version of Jules, or if you like the new survey system, maybe if we add branch and logic support, and you really want that, you can update that on your end without changing anything. So you
Mm.
don't have to wait for the dashboard to update. You don't have to wait for an App Store update. You don't have to wait for a server or a database update. Everything is modular and you can pick and choose what it is you want to customize. And when we make changes or update or add something new, you automatically get that rolled out to you.
Mm-hmm. Really cool.
Mhm. Yeah. Any other questions?
So one more kind of question about MindLamp 1 versus MindLamp 2. What would you say about choosing to use one versus the other for a participant? I mean, I assume 2 is better, but maybe it's a little beta still. Is there any reason to use one like in 6 months down the road, or are you really hoping that everyone's going to go to 2?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is that we believe everyone should move to MindLamp 2. We won't be supporting MindLamp 1 once the final release of MindLamp 2 is out the door. In fact, we'll be removing it from the App Store once we confirm with everyone that no one is still stuck using it and everyone's needs have been met. For example, the reason why we have to still use MindLamp 1 simultaneously with MindLamp 2 is cognitive tests haven't been fully ported over, or in the case of translations, in populations that speak Spanish or Mandarin Chinese or other languages that MindLamp 1 was localized for. MindLamp 2 is not yet localized for those same languages. So as we work to improve that and really bring feature parity to MindLamp 2, then we are really going to sunset MindLamp 1, no longer support it, and we really do say that everyone should be using MindLamp 2 from there on.
Makes sense.
Are there any other questions, comments?
Hi, this is Alex. I have a quick question. We have a bit of a unique use case we're exploring solutions for, and so the use case would be we have like a psychoeducational group of 10 people or so, 10 to 15 people, and then at the end, we'd like to give a URL or a QR code that would link them to a survey. Is that something we could do with MindLamp? We don't want individual data, kind of in the same way you may use a Survey Monkey, but to use MindLamp surveys. Is that possible? Or a custom survey in MindLamp?
Yeah, so right now, what is possible today is that you can generate a QR code to automatically log a user in. However, we are adding the feature soon that you can use a QR code to automatically log someone in and take them to a particular survey. However, when they fill this out and they stay logged in, they can actually go through and take other surveys or do other activities or take a look at the data that they've uploaded. And so if you want to customize it to fit your needs, you would have to turn all of those off, and then the QR code system would work very well for you.
Great. And then I've been having a little bit of a bug with, I think it's the iPhone XS with MindLamp 2, and like it works fine the first time, but then when I close it and reopen, I'm getting like an all white screen, and I've had to uninstall and reinstall. I have the latest version of iOS, so I don't know if that did it, but that's happened a couple times.
Yeah, okay. I have exactly the same problem.
Awesome. That is really helpful to know. Thank you for letting me know. I'll keep track of this, and I will check with our developers on what the bug might be. And I'm hoping that it seems like a fairly innocuous, quick fix bug. So I'm hoping that within maybe a few weeks, we can have that taken care of. And I'll definitely keep you all posted for the next webinar on the status of that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? If there's nothing else, didn't quite have any other agenda, so I guess we can wrap up a little early.
Sounds good. Thank you. This was really exciting.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really happy to be able to share all these things, and I just want to say that I'm sorry that it's taking so long to get this out the door for everyone, but I think our priority is to make sure that we hit everyone's needs and we make sure that we do it in a safe, effective way. The worst kind of thing is if someone who really needs to use the app uses the app and there's a bug that just makes the experience terrible for them, and we don't want to see that happening. So we're working hard to make sure that what we do release is perfect and works without any bugs. So with that, the current MindLamp 2 that you can go test out is all beta. That is the big disclaimer that I'm making. But hopefully next month, we finally have a release to share and everyone can start using that.
One quick question. Okay. Is there a repository of just like where insights or learnings are? I know you have the website and the forum, but where like research papers or people are sharing their insights, what's going well, what's not going well, aside from the MindLamp website and the I forget the name of the forum page, but is there a place where like research papers or other helpful insights we could learn from other people using the product, where I could find that, like a repository?
That's a very good question. We actually don't sort of have a repository of just MindLamp yet. We can actually, that's a really good proposal. I think that's something easy that we could create and would benefit a lot of people. So let me get back to you on that. But for right now, if you actually search, I believe if you search LAMP in Google Scholar and then you add John Torres as a name tag, you will likely find almost every piece of LAMP related material out there. And there's quite a lot, but we have yet to centralize it into one place.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I would love to see kind of related to that is, you know, and this might be something for the LAMP consortium to think about, is just like, what are our research priorities? What are the things that we think are most important to kind of answer first? Just so that different research groups are not reinventing the wheel, but maybe also replicating some of their own things within each other. You know, just kind of a thought.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. And what's amazing is we're thinking the same thing as you over at the Division of Digital Psychiatry. We're working on some materials that we're going to be sharing with the entire consortium very soon, really formalizing it, really bringing together who is here, what are we trying to do, what's the main goal at the end of the day, what are all the different projects, how do we sort of connect more effectively. And we're trying to put all of this together in a way where we actually are a global network of researchers and clinicians using this platform and really changing the way medicine works, or digital mental health at the very least. And so we're working on bringing that together. So I'll have some news for you next week for sure. And yeah, but thank you very much for that idea. That's something we would love to see as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Any other final questions? If not, I will be wrapping this one up. All right. Thank you so much to everyone that joined, and we'll see you next time. All right. Goodbye.